I really like telling people what's wrong with the property and what we can do to maintain it. So if you just want the highest rent, they're going to want the highest service, they're going to have the highest expectations of the property. So if you want to increase the rent, they're going to expect the upgrades. The relationship with the tenant is just as important as the relationship with the landlord. It's your investment, it is their home. This is the place where they raise their children. This is the place where they need to feel safe. The emotional attachment that they have to what happens in this property is very, very different to the emotional attachment that you get when you receive the financial benefits of this property.
Sophie Anapliotis, welcome to the Stay Frosty Podcast. This is everyone. This is Sophie from Element Property Network. Now, just tell us a bit about yourself, how you got into property management, what your business does, and the different divisions across. Because I find it extremely interesting that you essentially specialize in one area, but then you also branch out from there as well.
Yeah, it's sort of expanded into full investor support services. So, hi, I'm Sophie. Everyone calls me Soph, also from Geelong, which is what everyone has my name saved because no one can say Anapliotis. So I'm Soph from Geelong. And I started off as a property manager in 2010. And then when I started my business 6 years ago, it started off as property management, but then with my background in renovations and investing, it all sort of expanded into a full investor support service where we not only help with the leasing and the management, but we also help with pre-purchase, pre-settlement, renovation, uplift, capital improvement, consultation. And now it's like just a full investor service, essentially.
Full disclosure for everyone listening, Sophie and I actually work closer together. So from Geelong, I've actually seen your journey. I've seen the results you've produced for yourself personally, but also for your clients. Having done a lot of the work on a referral basis, no financial interest there, but essentially I've seen your business come on in leaps and bounds from the very start. So I do know from my own evidence on files, I've seen what you've been able to achieve. In terms of the company growth from 2010 to now 16 years later, how has the landscape changed in terms of service delivery?
Okay. So from when I started the business or when I started in property management?
Started in property management.
Damn. All right. Where do I start? I reckon, so the pinnacle point of change in property management, and I reckon this is probably every service-based business, was 2017 to 2018. That was when things started going digital.
Yeah.
So from 2010, everything was pretty cruisy. People would wait 3 to 5 business days to receive a letter. They would, everything was a little bit more cruisy. It was very customer facing, but there wasn't so much urgency and time and instant sort of gratification in the way that we have now.
Yeah.
So with that, 27 to 2018 came by, and it doesn't feel like very long ago, and it actually wasn't that long ago, but we were still lodging bonds at the post office at that time.
Yeah. Yeah, well, I can attest to that because 2018 PEXA was mandated.
Yeah.
So you're on the spot there.
This whole digital era completely came in and changed the whole space of property management, of every service, I'm going to say. I don't think it was just property management. But then that happened, we started to get into a new pace and everything was electronic and all that. And with electronic then came more instant, and then the expectations started changing a little bit. Then the big C hit, COVID. And then I believe that it just exacerbated it even further because we ended up not being able to do a lot of – everything was digital. Like even all of our open for inspections, I was doing them all through video inspection so then I could get a chance to get to know them and who was going into the property and giving the owners peace of mind. So communication and constant communication became like really, really prevalent at a time where there was so much unknown.
Yeah.
And I don't know whether from that or whether it was the digital age plus that, but I feel like we've sort of stayed in that mindset where we constantly need that instant communication at all times.
Yeah, stayed at that pace.
We've stayed at that pace, but then we also have had the biggest compliance changes in the Residential Tenancies Act from 2021. So we've had that plus COVID, plus all the changes, plus all the compliance, and we have changes within months of each other. since 2021. So it has been massive shift over the last couple of years. But in the thick of it all, even with all the technology and all that, the thing that people still really value is picking up the phone.
Yeah.
So it's how can you keep up with today's demand while still remaining present to then be on the phone and give that old school service and building that relationship, but then also keeping up with today's expectations and time. So
I guess that comes up to, managing client expectations. I notice a lot of property managers will have an auto reply on their email saying, hey, we might not get to your email. And that's that instant gratification piece. People want to reply on the same day. It's a bit faux pas for lawyers to hand out their mobile numbers. But I tell my clients, if you call me, I'll be returning your call the same business day, but whether that's in the afternoon or say 5 o'clock or just a message to say, hey, I received your call. I'll come back to you tomorrow. Say I'm stuck in court all day, but you're right. It's harnessing and building that relationship with the client so they can understand and appreciate, all right, well, this is when they can be available and I'll respect when they can't be available. But you're right, that pace hasn't slowed down and emails are now the bane of everyone's existence. It used to be the facsimile. Going back in the day, you'd get a fax, and I remember working in family law, we'd get a fax at 4 p.m. on a Friday requesting our client get a supervised drug screen request on the weekend, within 48 hours. So, tactics have changed. Sometimes you'll still get personal service of court documents, but they say we're a paperless society. We'll never be a paperless society. There will all be some form of paper running around. The biggest change I saw amongst COVID, and especially in the profession, was when digital signatures came in. At that time, I was working for the Law Institute, and we were reaching out to the AG department, which is the Attorney General's department out in Canberra. We met with their colleague in Melbourne and brought DocuSign and digital signatures to the table, because what people didn't know is that deeds are actually considered property. So under the Instruments Act, deeds have to be wet signed. COVID changed that in an instant. But we essentially were having those conversations with the AG's department to bring digital signing in prior to COVID once it happened. And we got no credit for it, of course. But then that brought in the suite of digital will signing, digital powers of, and essentially the ease of business that's been allowed to happen from there on, like retail leases, commercial leases, residential leases, they're all pretty much docu-signed now. Banks are getting loan agreements docu-signed. And, when you're looking at a loan agreement, it says you've fully read and understood. If you've got a DocuSign signature email chain that says this email was sent at 12:45, at 12:46 it was signed, there's some real questions about litigation where that says you're fully aware of the terms when you've signed it.
Did you actually read
it? Yeah. So it's an interesting era that we live in. How are you finding the different demographics that are coming to you now? Are you finding the more younger generations are looking at investing or renovating and flipping, or are you still finding is that baby boomer generation that's holding a lot of that generational wealth?
I have clients that are 27 on their 9th property.
Jeez.
I have...
Impressive.
It is. I still don't know how they did it. It's been a journey for me as well. What I've actually really enjoyed outside of doing what I love doing is actually getting to know the clients and their journeys. Like it's been, to hear from, guy 27 and just seeing what he's figured it out. Creating financial freedom, all that sort of thing. And then we have clients that have been in commercial property. They've sold out of commercial property. They're now buying 2 property under self-managed super fund, and they have until the 9th of August to do that.
Yeah, right. I was trying to get him on the deadline.
So I see all ends, but I find that I don't know whether it's me or the business or what we represent, but we do tend to work more with wealth creators, go-getters, people that are building wealth for their family, generational wealth. They're more the conversations that I'm having, and everyone has a different reason for investing. Some of them are accidental mum and dad investors. There aren't a lot of those anymore.
Yeah, interesting.
Yeah,
wow. I have found a rush of purchasers who are trying to buy under SMSF arrangements because of the deadline.
It's been wild.
Yeah, I honestly think the SMSF money will just move to commercial now because commercial took such a dive during COVID because no one could rent, and land tax changes and everything else. So you're going to find more people who are looking at warehousing and data centers. Talk to me about the effect that compliance has had with the recent major changes. I mean, we haven't had a change to the Residential Tenancy Act
Mm.
for a very long time.
Yeah.
Not in this nature where they've been coming transitions and waves. How have you found that impact your business, but also delivering those sort of messages to the clients?
Yeah. It's been so earlier on, because we had a little bit of a lead up to the changes, and it started off with just giving, this is the information that we have so far and this is what we have to go by. But what we ended up seeing was that there were changes that came out, but then they didn't really clarify what the changes were. And it was the middle ground of trying to figure out what the legislation meant, how it could be interpreted, what Consumer Affairs interpreted at, if we were going to get fined if we didn't follow that, and then the fear that went, and it depended on how we approached it. We treated it as an education thing, that every time something new came out, we would educate them based on what we know at the time. Like, one of the most frustrating things that came through was the having to change range hoods if they weren't more than 60 centimeters, like 600 mil.
Yeah.
But then within maybe 6 or 7 months of that coming out, they then turned around and said, oh no, if it was installed, like at the time, if the installation was okay based off the VBA, then you don't need to change it. And I'm like, so you're telling me that we just went and spend $2,000 that an owner didn't have to spend to change cabinetry, to do all this stuff just to make it compliant with today's rental standards, but then you turn around 7 months later and say, oh no, it was actually okay.
Yeah.
So it's the flip. It's like this is what you need to do. Oh no, now you don't need to do this. And that's probably what's created so much frustration across the board. And then getting one report that says that it's passed, one report that says that it's failed, but it's the exact same reason, like it's the exact same lock or it's the exact same window. And then, we have to continue to stay on top of it and question why it's failed before we put it to the owner. Because if we put it to them and then we find out that it actually didn't need to be done, then we're like unknowingly making them spend more money than what they need to at a time where taxes are high.
Cost of living
is high.
Petrol.
Trying to maintain an investment property is high. You've got safety audits, you've got maintenance, the rise of other issues such as like mold and things like that. That's all changing across the board as well, because the environment that we live in is now changing. The way that people live now changes. So there's so much rapid change at the same time of uncertainty and not a lot of clarity as well.
There's something to be said for the lack of consultation from government, but then the implementation of these changes, because it happens across the board. We saw it in the retail leases space when they brought in changes and didn't update the disclosure statements for outgoings for that tenants need to pay. And then even recently with the Retirement Villages Act, essentially stagnated a whole industry of retirement village sales because we had to wait for a new contract to be produced, and all the top 4 law firms in Melbourne were producing that contract. It's only just recently come out now. So now you've got to flow on to be able to allow, but it affects so many people.
And from a operational point of view, we now have to have a compliance manager, like someone who is purely there to make sure that A, it's getting done, and B, we're going through the reports to make sure that the reports actually are in line with the Residential Tenancies Act. It's
another overlay of regulation.
It's absolutely crazy. So to think that a property manager was originally an entry level role,
it's morphed into
to then
else.
Step into sales, it's no longer that. It is a career, and you have to be on top of it. You have to know your shit in this industry now.
And I'll get a lot of telephone call inquiries, and I'll mostly refer them to you for that sort of knowledge. I'll admit, we don't deal with a lot of residential tenancy disputes because there's not a lot of money in it for clients who are trying to defend themselves or go through VCAT lawyers. Their lawyers' fees are too prohibitive, right? And we're just way too expensive, and VCAT takes so much longer to deal with. But a lot of the advice I tell clients to go to is go to the Tenants of Victoria community legal organisation website.
Don't do that.
And it's not always correct.
Don't do that.
It's not always correct. I do say that you still need to go get independent advice from someone who works in this industry. But the first point is like going to the website and seeing what sort of guidance they can provide you. I remember I saw a post recently from Tenants Victoria saying don't move out if you get a notice to vacate. Wait until they take you to court and get an eviction notice. And I'm like, so you're literally advising clients to just ignore the law. How can that be done from a community legal center perspective?
And there is, with the rise of, there has been a lot of political agenda that has created a lot of media of landlord versus tenant. Landlord is greedy. They have all the money in the world. They keep all their properties like crap. They don't care about their tenants. They just want to take the rent and blah, blah, blah. So there's a massive narrative around that at the moment.
Yeah.
And it's actually not for the benefit of the tenant. It's for the benefit of the voter.
Yeah, of course.
And I'm not going to get into the politics of it, but that is a lot of the uncertainty and a lot of the fear that I'm seeing at the moment is what happens if a tenant trashes a property? What happens if they stop paying rent? What happens if this? And the first thing that I have to tell them is, well, the legislation has changed and now these are the steps that are no longer available to you if that happens.
Yeah.
But what becomes super, super prevalent with anything is the relationship with the tenant is just as important as the relationship with the landlord.
Yeah.
If they cannot come to us and know that we're going to help them, they're going to go somewhere else and try and seek advice as well.
Yeah, of course.
So it really does come back down to customer service, education, and helping them to understand their rights as much as what we're helping the owners to understand their rights. And I say to owners from the beginning, before they even sign up, if you think that you are my customer, just think again. I said, you're my partner in this.
Yeah.
Like, you are engaging me to do what's in best interest of your investment property.
Yeah.
But it's your investment. It is their home.
Well, it's spot on.
Very different.
Yeah, that's spot on.
This is the place where they raise their children. This is the place where they need to feel safe. So the emotional attachment that they have to what happens in this property is very, very different to the emotional attachment that you get when you receive the financial benefits of this property.
Yeah. That's so interesting. I've never heard anyone describe it that way because it is, when I look at the commercial space, which I work in mostly, I tell.
It's all business.
It is all business, but I do tell the tenants, like, ultimately, you want to have a harmonious relationship with your landlord because it's a journey. It's not just a transaction. Like, at the end of the day, if you're trying to make noise and cause issues for them, what do you think when it comes time when the lease expires and you're asking them for a CPI increase instead of a market rent review? Or if you're asking for further terms and no further terms, they're going to just say, see you later, I want another tenant. So that ongoing relationship's important in all perspectives, from whether it's commercial or residential, because landlords, I mean, a lot of their legal rights have been curtailed by consumer protection mechanisms, but I think people need to stop listening to the narrative from mass media and actually think about it. We're talking about vulnerable people. Like, it's a bit of an oxymoron to have a housing shortage or housing crisis that's being created and we're funding all this housing, but then we've also got a rental crisis as well. So who's buying or renting, right? Like, it just doesn't make sense. But people need to understand that, it is a journey. It's not just a transaction. And the landlords need to know that they're dealing with vulnerable parties and the vulnerable person needs to be taken care of. Same in the retirement village space.
There aren't actually as many vulnerable people living in rentals as what you think. The issue that we find is that when it is completely transactional, it becomes transactional on the other side. So if you just want the highest rent, they're going to want the highest service. They're going to have the highest expectations of the property and the way that it's being maintained. So if you want to increase the rent to the top or even more, they're going to expect the upgrades. They're going to expect that everything is absolutely tickety-boo. So we say to them, these are the maintenance items that have been dwelling. If you're expecting that your rent is going to be top dollar, expect that this maintenance request is going to be actioned as well. It's tit for tat. Like, relationship goes both ways. And at the end of the day, it is what they are producing as a product, and the tenants need to feel like it is of value to them to have that product and to pay for it. Because it's their home. They need to feel comfortable in it. And if not, yes, we do have a rental crisis. We have a rental crisis in a sense that things are becoming unaffordable or unattainable for the middle class. They're also becoming unaffordable and unattainable for people that need government assistance in social housing. And social housing, there isn't enough of it. So they're getting pushed into the private housing market and they're paying more than what they should because there isn't enough assistance.
Yeah.
to
No,
hold them.
I know clients who are on government support and only have $50 to their name a week because they just can't afford anything else.
Yeah, we're seeing like the rent to income ratio that is brought out as a general rule is about 30% of your income should be going towards paying rent or paying a mortgage. It goes both ways. We're seeing up to 50% now in some cases.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's scary. That's scary to think.
Yeah.
So in terms of your, client investor journey or education piece, a lot of your landlords get sticky from that point onwards, or how did that evolve, and how do you work with clients?
How did it evolve? I started offering it as a free service at the end of 2020. And it came about for two reasons. One, I don't have a sales arm. So I needed to figure out a way that I was going to continue to get in front of people before they made a decision on their property management.
Yeah.
I didn't have working in a larger agency. I could just go and see who's purchased what, give them a call and all that. But when you're working on your own and you don't have a sales team, you've got to figure out other ways. So got in contact with other service-based businesses and said, hey, who can I help? It was also at the time where interstate investing became really popular. And I was seeing properties that were being purchased that essentially were crap. And there was a lot of work that needed to be done before renting it out, or there was a lot of money being left on the table with how much rent return they actually could have got.
Mm-hmm.
Such bad English there. But then I ended up just treating it as an education thing to say, hey, if you don't have anyone on the ground that's actually giving you this advice, I'll go through the property and I'll give you a video walkthrough. I'll tell you the things that you're not going to see online, the things that you're not going to see on data sets. You're going to see how the property is being maintained, if there's any leaks or drips. I just came from one and they didn't expect that there were leaks and an aircon that wasn't working and they're just about to settle on the property tomorrow.
That's not my client, thank God.
It's not your client. No. But then they would have ended up having to replace an aircon and have all these issues if they didn't have someone having a look at it. So a lot of it was about giving them the actual education and the information that they needed to make sure that when they committed to this, when it went unconditional, they could actually afford to keep it.
Yeah.
Because what I'm finding is a lot of investors go in with the aspect of thinking that they're going to keep the property long term. So we're talking 10, 15, 20 years. Yeah. Look, we've had a little bit of transactional investing happening over the last couple of years because we have had properties that have grown and then, all that sort of thing. So don't necessarily agree with that method, but people have been doing that a lot. But most of them, it's long term.
Yeah.
But the thing that stops them from holding it is the stress that comes with holding the property.
Yeah.
And they do not put those into their calculations. They look at what their buying costs are going to be, what their mortgage is going to be, what their insurance is going to be, but they don't think about how old the hot water service is.
Yeah.
They don't think about how old the oven is. And when they all go, there's an extra $10,000 to $15,000 and they are urgent repairs and they have to be actioned within 24 hours.
Yeah.
Do you have that money set aside? Yes or no?
That's right. Yeah. But not a lot of people have that foresight.
No. And that's why I started offering the service. I didn't realize it was going to be as popular to the point where I made a business out of it. But that was just an evolution of the business. And now we're the only people that offer it.
Just means you're good at your job.
You're
good at what you do.
I really like telling people what's wrong with the property and what we can do to maintain it. Because at the end of the day, if they have what they need and they've got the budget set aside for it, it's going to make the experience for them much better because their expectations are managed from the beginning.
100%.
Rather than just being like, hey, by the way, you've just bought this property, you've just engaged me to manage it and to lease it, but now I'm telling you that you have $20,000 of work to put into it before you can even lease it.
Well, and that's the thing people aren't telling them. Like that scenario you discussed earlier, I was just having a conversation with a client about their property where air conditioner is not working, hot water service needs to be replaced, and there's leaks in the roof. And funnily enough, obviously won't name names, but the client said to me, who expects anyone to go through a property and check all this stuff? I don't know. Well, that's what we tell you. Like we do contract advice. We tell clients, go check the taps, go check the hot water service, go check the range hood, make sure it's all working. Because if you want to make a claim on that contract, you can say it was working when I did the inspection and now it's not working, so it needs to be fixed. Yeah. So there's something to be said for the Wild West of, vendors contracts we see out there with all vendor favourable terms, but now we've seen a whole swag of special conditions coming back into the purchaser's favour, such as proper working order conditions. Pretty much, any fixture or fitting or chattel needs to be in proper working order before settlement. If it's not, it needs to be repaired and or adjustment to the purchase price. You've also got professional cleaning provisions that go in there. Some that we've discussed previously is this whole compliance suite of special conditions that come in. I think they're going to come in vogue now, especially for investors.
Yeah.
And the more professionals that are aware of them, the more they'll insert them into contracts.
Yeah.
I've seen them in some of my vendors' contracts sometimes where clients haven't been particularly happy about them.
Yeah.
But I'm like, well, that was a negotiation and that's what you've agreed to.
Well, and to give context to that, so I contacted you, I don't know, maybe a couple of months ago, and I was just on one of my rage things of what I usually would be talking about.
I do enjoy those conversations.
They are a great conversation. We're we're very neutral and very calm, but offline we tend to get very heated about things that we care about, very passionate. Yeah. And that was one of the things that I was really passionate about. And I was like, Paul, how do we change the wording of the contract? Because I see contracts that come through all the time and saying that they have the ability to start advertising before settlement, which is pretty normal. Use of sale photography, start advertising 7 days prior and either one open if they've got that or no opens until settlement, whatever. However, if the vendor is not allowing for any minimum standards rectification works to be done and it fails minimum standards, it means that we can't advertise. So then that piece of the contract or that special condition is pointless, absolutely pointless. So now there needs to be that extra step of saying the minimum standards report needs to be done and approval for rectification works on the purchaser's side. They have to pay for it, obviously, not on the vendor side because it's in their interest to get it ready.
Yeah.
But I have not seen one contract yet with that wording yet. And we have been able to, there are some times where they've just gone, no, vendor is not taking on the risk with allowing any works to be done. And I'm talking about like putting a restrictor in a shower head. It's not a risk. But they just want everything clean. They don't want any changes to happen. It's fair enough. That's their prerogative. That's what they want to do.
Yeah.
But then on the other side, the investors didn't take into consideration that their property is going to sit vacant for another 1 or 2 weeks.
Yeah, and that's unfortunate.
That's loss of income.
What we try and do for purchasers in that context is try and get a license agreement over the line. Because then under a license, they're liable for anything that they do with the property anymore.
Yeah.
So they can do any improvement work they want and they've got a certificate of insurance. It just means that they have to pay a few additional fees to get the license agreement up and then pay a weekly license fee. But then that's so much more easier than getting a whole bunch of obviously one contract with those special conditions you're referring to.
Oh, that's good.
One contract. In my last 6 months.
That's one more than what I've seen.
And I think that was a Ballarat property or a Shepparton property. And it actually allowed the purchaser, who was an investor obviously, a $3,000 rebate if the conditions weren't satisfied. And I thought, geez, that's pretty hefty penalty. Yeah, but my client was willing to accept the risk and said, let's do it. I just had to make sure I contact one of our local B&I people to go out and do the safety audit. You probably know who I'm referring to, but we've got a whole network of people that are able to support our clients. With clients, for me, it's like mortgage brokers, accountants, financial planners. For you, it'd be a lot of trades based. How important are your relationships with your trades?
Relationships are super, super important. So I'll give the safety auditor that we both know, let's call him Schmixer. They come up on your video all the time on your little mouse pad. No, it's Rick Safety Auditors. We can talk, say it. But I actually sat them down in a meeting and I said, look, the 3 main things that come up as fail on a minimum standards are shower heads, locks, and blind cords. Yeah. I would love for you to have it as part of your service that while you are there, if they're an issue, get them done. Yeah. Because then we don't have to talk about another call out, another access for entry, anything like that.
Yeah.
And
saving clients time and money.
Exactly. Yeah. So that's where if we just had some company that was doing it and they didn't understand our needs or our clients' needs or why we're asking for these, makes it a lot harder.
Yeah.
But I also am comfortable enough when I'm doing the pre-purchase inspection to go through and see what things are going to come up.
Yeah.
And that comes up with like education time, talking to safety audit companies and understanding the difference between them. So now I can go through and go, okay, I'm not an electrician, but I know what a switchboard should look like.
Yeah. Yeah.
I can tell when an RCD might or might not pass. I can tell what locks need replacing. I can tell. I now have a bucket from our local plumber. Shout out to Craig, because I kept sending him messages being like, is this shower head a 3-star or is it a 4-star? And he came to me and he said, here's a bucket. You can tell if it's a 3-star or 4-star, and actually showed me how to do it. So now
nice.
I've got a bucket in my
Love
car and I
love
take
it.
it to my pre-purchase inspections.
awesome.
And it's so funny because then it opens up all the conversations with selling agents as well, because they don't need to know all this information. Like I come through, because I'm not a buyer's agent and I'm just Sophie, the rental girl that comes in with her bucket. Like it's just a funny, different thing. But I'm doing that so then I can foresee what things we might need to do. So then we do reduce that advertising time. So and even renovations and stuff like that as well. We do facilitate a lot of renovations and capital improvement. But with the trades that we organise for that, I say to them, here's the list. This is what's been approved. This is the timeline. But I want the minimum standards done first and then have it clean enough to take photos so then we can start advertising.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like it's
the most important.
Yeah, because they're not necessarily there to care about what the end result is. They just need to get in there and do the job. But if they have a timeline and they have a set criteria of what they need to do, helps me to get the job done sooner while still giving them the timeline.
Yeah.
Manages everyone's expectation. No one wants a property sitting there vacant.
No. It's in no one's best interest. There you go. So I guess you'd be nearly the only property manager walking around in a bucket with a bucket.
I wish more did.
Well, I guess this is I see it in our professional services industry. I see a divide between those who do want to go that extra mile and take that effort and incorporate more efficient business procedures to allow you to do those sort of things.
Yeah.
And then I see other I guess hurdle requirements like the new AML/CTF anti-money laundering legislation, which has been blasted across social media and everyone knows about it now, thank Christ, because at least clients aren't asking me questions. I still get the odd, why do I have to prove I'm an Australian citizen? I honestly think as a solicitor, it's unconstitutional to have to prove you're an Australian citizen when you live here, right?
I think it's crazy that it has to be done twice, from what I understand.
So not just twice. So you got the loan for the bank as well. So you got the real estate agent, the solicitor, and then the bank doing all three checks. Like there was an idea someone came up with recently. It said it should be like the Vic Roads QR code or a link where you can go and verify that it's been done. Like it's just, I guess, making some service providers a lot more money.
Yeah.
Versus the rest. And what I'm finding in our industries is that people are essentially saying, I'm not willing to put the time in to do the regulation and compliance.
Yeah.
How are you finding that?
And that's probably been the main feedback that I have had from other property managers when we talk about minimum standards and all that, even offering pre-purchase, because a lot of property managers actually get asked by buyers agents or by interstate investors to say, hey, can you go and have a look at the property for me? And they haven't got the mindset of understanding that people will pay for that. It is a service at the end of the day.
Yeah.
And it should be,
that's right.
Like you're putting your time and expertise into it, but they don't actually have the business model or the efficiency currently built into the business to be able to do that. And they simply say, I don't have the time. I just don't have the time to do it. And it's not, I guess, because the model of property management has changed, I just saw it and built it into the business before I actually realized that it was a full needed business.
Yeah.
But the traditional property management, it's not built for that. It's large portfolios. They're managing 250 properties as it is. They're already trying to figure out all the compliance and minimum standards and keeping spot fires out and all that.
I remember when this happened in the retail leaser space, and I was talking to commercial managers about how you can pass on land tax before the land tax changes came in, before they reduced the threshold to 50 grand and everyone's paying land tax. I was like, if you put the permitted use as a warehouse or a storage, you can pass on land. Oh, yeah, no, it is what it is. I'm like, hold on, your landlord's paying your wage. Like they're paying a commission. They pay for property management.
They pay you to think.
Yeah, like you're not there just to collect the income and then not actually service delivery to the client. I'm like, for me, there's not a lot of regulation is had in the commercial leasing space. and any sort of regulation doesn't really get mandated or essentially enforced.
Yeah.
I know VCAT's the main area that people will go to get disputes resolved. What other levers do you pull to help resolve any disputes for existing landlords? Like what's your percentage of landlord disputes that you'd have in your own business?
In the 6 years I've been running it, I can still count on two hands how many times we've been to VCAT.
Nice.
It doesn't happen very often. We do sometimes take on complex cases, like the one that you refer onto me. And
well, you're literally the only person I knew who could deal with something like that. Like I don't know a lot of property managers who have that in-depth knowledge of the Residential Tenancies Act.
Yeah,
you know?
and it is. It's very, and I have people in my corner who have been doing this for much longer than what I have, 25, 30 years. And whenever things become too complex for me, I then can call onto my network and say, hey, and I know that you know who we're talking about as well. He's a legend. But we don't, everything's all preventative and it all comes down to the relationship. The biggest thing that causes an issue to happen is giving an issue to a tenant from the first place. And that's why we try to do all the prevention stuff. We say, if you know that the property's a headache, don't hand it over as a headache.
Yeah.
Because then the headache is going to come back.
It'll get worse. Yeah,
the frustration is going to come back, and then time's going to go on. They're going to get more frustrated because you gave it to them in a way that you felt like they deserved it. It's a psychological thing as well. If you're giving a house that is unclean, gardens are not maintained, or like it's just shit, like it's just a house, people are going to feel that and they're going to go, oh, don't you expect any better than me?
And that's the thing, you're setting up the expectation.
Yeah. Right? So I'm like, and I give them a checklist at the beginning and I say, these are the things that should be done. And it really comes down to cleanliness, honestly. A lot of the issues get resolved by just giving a really clean house. And the other thing that I do as well, because a lot of the houses around Geelong, and I'm sure it's all around Australia, there's a lot of houses that are like 50 to 70 years old that are being rented out. And yes, they get updates and all that sort of thing. They should get updates. But we also, things will happen. Like things will break down, crack will happen on a window if, all that. And especially if it's the first time that we've managed the property and leased it out, I say to the owners and the tenants from the beginning, this is your first time renting the property as an owner. This is your first time as a tenant renting the property. This is our first time managing the property.
Yeah.
We're going to find shit.
Yeah.
You are going to move in. You're going to find the creaky cupboards. You're going to find just things that we're not going to see until you actually start moving into a home and living into it. So the tenants actually get to know the properties way more intimately than we ever know. So I say to the owners, expect that the first month is going to be a wish list of things, because it's an older home. So just put that into the budget as well. Of course, if it's things that are ridiculous, like we look at it and go, okay, well, no, like you're not paying $1,000 a week. We're not going to install ducted heating when you accepted. So it's about being practical about it as well. But it really is about education and managing expectations from the beginning. And because the tenants have been told that, and I keep calling them tenants because I'm old school. They're technically renters in Victoria, but
they changed.
I'm going to keep calling it tenants. I'm old, so it's tenants. But because I've said that to them from the beginning, it removes that, I'm not going to say ammo, but it removes that, like they're not afraid to have the conversations and to have that, because they're like, oh, the property manager gets it. They get that we're going to come in and I don't want to feel like I'm complaining. But like that's just how it's going to be.
I remember my journey into investment, and I bought a property off the plan, sight unseen, and it had no security door. I remember the tenant asked for a security. I'm like, oh, that's fair. You've got a child, you need a security door. I'll pay. When they asked for the internet connection, I was like, no, that's you want the internet. You pay for the internet. That's your role, not mine. Like, it's interesting how, like, even for example, in vendor statements, they've got telephone service. I don't know a house that has a telephone service connected. Like, if you've got a telephone service connected, only telemarketers are calling you, or the ATO or the ABS for your census, right? I don't know why they don't just update it to the internet, right? Like everyone needs the internet. It's one of those basic.
We still get requests for Foxtel. And I didn't even realize that Foxtel still existed.
Yeah, it does. You still get a box. My uncle's got Foxtel.
Really?
Yeah, I actually remember going around Yarraville collecting cashies as a rent with non-law, and he would be mowing their lawn to save money. You know what wogs like. They don't like wasting money on stuff. But I remember how far now it's come along to today's day and age. And of course, we're talking, 30, 40 years ago. So, the whole landscape of the world was completely different pre-internet and pre-mobile phone, right? How are you implementing the new innovations through AI into your business? I always enjoy asking this question on my guests because everyone uses AI in different fashions. And, we try and building inefficiencies so that we can save clients money. Other people are using it to then make more money for themselves and charge on, like I know a lawyer put in their cost disclosure an hourly rate on an AI review. And I'm like, you're not even, like, you're essentially getting the AI review to shorten the time that you can then bill the client. So how are you then double dipping? Anyways.
Yeah. There's a couple of ways that I've used AI, and I actually, as much as I'm very, very big in the customer experience side, but I use AI to be able to keep up with the expectations of customer experience, because I want to be able to do less in the admin side of it so then I can spend more time on the phone.
Yeah.
So I always look at how can we spend more time on the phone without having to deal with the amount of backlog and administration that comes through. So we have different softwares that have started coming out with a lot more tech and automation. So now we have these really cool tasks and checklists for every process in the business that we can build out. And it's a cool onboarding new management, and then every checklist can assign someone who's responsible for it. It can build out a template. It can open up another task that's associated to it.
Yeah.
So a lot of that, and full disclosure, a lot of that stuff and the admin actually gets handled by my EA or by virtual assistant, because a lot of it is repetitive and it doesn't actually need a lot of input from myself, from the person.
Yeah.
The other thing that I've been recently doing, and this has been a mindset shift for me, when it comes to introducing myself to new business, I've been very, very old school. Get on the phone, have the conversation, go through their property, all that sort of thing. But what I've found is that the way that I value time, and I like to give time, but sometimes it takes me too long to actually get the information out. So I went through a process of saying, hey, am I that important in the business, in that new business inquiry process?
Yeah.
And how is going to be the fastest way to get them the information that they need to make a decision at the time?
Yeah.
And I found out that I actually don't really need to be that involved in the initial process, which, stab in the heart, not that important.
Ego's a bit
but yeah, I know the ego got in check there. But the automations that's now available has actually helped the customer experience to give them what they need at the time that they have asked for it.
Yeah, yeah. And I think that's what AI is for, right? It's to build in the efficiencies in that admin role. I'm a bit the same. I like the hands-on approaches. I like to be involved in having hired my wife as essentially practice manager. She's the boss at work now and at home. It has done the same. And I'm like, again, a bit of ego stab. I'm not that important. I don't need to be front-facing with your clients. But you plug yourself in where your specialty requires. Like for you, taking that bucket around, no one else is doing that.
No.
Like I'm doing same-day contract reviews. I know very little people are doing same-day contract reviews.
And reality is, I'm not the typical boss that sits behind the desk and lets everyone else. I'm very, very hands-on. So a lot of the time I'm out on the road. I'm looking at properties. I'm doing assessments. I'm checking out the renovations. And when you have so much coming into the inbox, the best thing that I did was hire an EA. And that was a lot for me because I'm a full-blown control freak. I like to see every email, everything that's coming through, but there's only so much that you can do with a limited time if you're, checking your emails when you're eating spaghetti bolognese at night, you know, like when you're trying to catch up on everything at night after having a full day. And that was also
either, right? Like the emails are a source of anxiety and stress.
Well, it's more the fear of letting people down if you're not getting back to them on time, while also doing what you need to do to be proactive in the business and for the clients and all that. So, being able to trust that people are just as committed and can know what they're doing in the business. So it took me a long time to trust someone to essentially be my second brain. and for her to even do things better and find better ways to do things as well.
Yeah.
So those same day callbacks, book into the calendar, give them a call. That's made such a world of difference
Yeah.
for the client experience. And then we do annual investor audits with all of our clients as well.
Yeah.
So the annual investor audits, that's all been automated to go out to the clients 120 days before their lease renewal is up.
Nice.
So then they book in, they can choose a time that suits them. So I do utilize Calendly for that sort of stuff as well, to book all that in. I could talk about tech and automation all day. Maintenance platform as well. We've introduced a maintenance platform and it has AI troubleshooting with the renter when they're first putting it in.
Yeah.
So then it helps with us being able to understand what they're actually asking for. So then we can see if it is legitimate. Because a lot of when maintenance is reported, it's like door not work. It's like, okay, which door? Where?
Yeah.
Why is it not
Just
working?
qualifying.
Yeah, it is. And then the time that it takes to be on the phone and working that out. And because we have different, we're a multicultural company. We're a multicultural country as well. So sometimes there is language barrier there. So having different AI functions to be able to prompt them through, so then we get the information we need, helps with getting maintenance done quicker as well, rather than going back and forth. So it's the AI is all through.
I mean, I see how it plays
business.
out with major companies. Like even it was announced that Qantas are looking at using AI for all their marketing, getting rid of all their I mean, they're doing it for overhead efficiencies so that they can make more profits by not staying PG and staff wages, by getting rid of staff, right? I think small business, looks to how to create
they're doing like the Woolies, self-serve.
Yeah, sort of thing.
Okay.
So, I mean, any major bank, you go to their app and they've got an AI bot talking to you first before you get into a person. I know some banks, you can't even get into a person. It's nearly impossible. And I write those banks off. I mean, what's been cautious for me and my business is not going to that VA level, because we're a small business, we're a boutique, and investing in the local community, because I want to give law students a crack. I mean, any law student tries to get a job out there, there's 5 times the amount of jobs that are actually available.
Yes, but how much of the work that's repetitive and not actually high value stuff is being done?
Yeah, that's right. No, 100%. I think you have to implement it. But one thing also I wanted to touch on in your industry is that the high, I guess, anxiety and stress levels that your industry experiences, because there's a lot of vicarious trauma. I know in my profession, there's a lot of vicarious trauma, especially in certain jurisdictions like family law. There's a lot of it, and the clients will lean on you. How have you dealt with the mental health side of things? Because I know with a lot of property managers, they do suffer a lot of mental health issues because it is a high stressful, high paced, high volume environment job.
I'm not going to sit here and say that I've figured it out. Honestly, it is a very, very high stress job. The things that we try to maintain is smaller portfolio numbers, higher automations to be able to get back to people on time, because a lot of the stress that generally comes, most of the stress comes from people wanting you at a time that you are not available. That's generally where the high stress comes from in any sort of service. So maintaining smaller portfolios, being able to be there and be available, be high touch, and also getting away. We do have the head property manager that is there to take care of the day-to-day, but when you try to do end-to-end and then not have someone to lean on when you're out on the road doing routine inspections for 4 hours and then you come back and not have anything done for you, that's a high stress, because there's only so much that you can do in a day. That then leads, so the lack of support in the background can lead to working longer hours, working weekends, feeling like you can never be caught up. I think there's also this mentality where we feel like if we work harder, we will always be caught up. There's always going to be something to do. And having tools in place, and it really does come down to organization. We have a lot of tools that now allow due dates, priority lists, being able to have the admin team to be like, hey, by the way, these are my priorities for the day. Can you please help with getting these, sort of ready? So then when I'm back in the office, I can take care of this, and this. I think that there's probably not enough support from directors in real estate to actually, I don't think directors, unless they work in the portfolio, I don't think they really understand how bloody stressful it is. Like, and when you get an email and then 30 minutes later, a client is calling to talk about the email that had come through at a time when you're in a routine inspection or you're doing a condition report that takes 2 or 3 hours and they haven't heard back in 2 to 3 hours. And then they're like, why haven't you responded to my email? When you don't have that support happening in the background, that's where the stress comes from.
Yeah, 100%.
Managing expectations helps with that. So those emails saying, hey, we will come back to you in 48 hours. And then being able to meet those expectations are there. But it is like we do, even though we don't have a lot of VCAT cases, which is what people more think about when you talk about complex cases, majority of the complex cases that we have are insurance claims.
Yeah.
That is way more active in our business than what VCAT cases are. So shower rebuilds, like it's, and being able to, like we do a lot of negotiation between parties now. Like we've been successful in getting an extra $20,000 for a client because we went through their PDS.
Nice.
We've had to put 4-page documents together to help appeal that process. Like that takes a lot of time. There's a lot of deep work that goes into managing a property really, really effectively. And I think that probably isn't discussed enough. And even directors within a real estate business don't understand how much time each property actually needs to have that proper care.
It's so interesting.
You can't do it with 200 properties under management. You just can't.
Yeah. I wholeheartedly agree with you on the insurance part because I've known so many clients who come with insurance claims and they can't essentially afford to pay for legal costs. I even had one where a tree fell over the client's house and they tried to blame the client. And I'm like, it was like this tree was at least 50, 60 years old and you're blaming the client for a tree falling over their house and then they ended up paying out. But I mean, that's what you see it in Hollywood, right? That's the insurance company's job is to not pay you out so they can save their company money.
Yeah.
But you're right, having that perspective, and that's why they say family lawyers are a special breed because unless you've gone through it, you don't actually appreciate the gratitude or I guess the gravitas of what a family law client is because they're essentially there for you on the journey and you're essentially, their lawyer, their psychiatrist, their mental health coach, their motivator, their best friend, like you sit in all those roles. And there's so much vicarious trauma from that, I find the same. I haven't solved it. I go in swings and roundabouts where it's normally around litigation. If we've got litigation going on, it's highly stressful, highly anxious because I don't have the resources to attend to other clients' demands. But even recently getting a maternity leave staff member back has just freed me up to then cut my emails down, delegate work.
And do you know what's really funny? I was on a podcast and it was a property management specific podcast a couple of weeks ago and we were talking about just what's changed in the industry, what's changed in the business. And I've said that like every property management or business coach professional that I speak to always say that I'm overstaffed for the amount of properties that I have. Every single one.
Interesting. How?
Because the margins don't make sense anymore. Because the fees. So we still have this perception as a property management industry that we don't really do a lot. So a lot of owners still don't see the value in a high value property manager.
Yeah.
So we sort of fall in this category of we value what you do, but it's only when they actually see what we do or if we've been referred in, which I'm lucky because we are a referral only business. But if they are sort of fee shopping, they see, that chick down the road is offering 5% and you all do the same thing. And it's not until they've been burnt or they've seen the chalk and cheese experience that they go, oh, maybe paying that extra little bit is worth it.
Yeah.
And we're still in an industry where we're seen as administrators.
Yeah.
So it is that as well. But then to actually service the clients at the level that we want to deliver to them.
Well, especially now.
Yeah.
In today's environment.
Yeah. We have to have more support than what we ever have.
Yeah.
Back when the first question you asked, another thing that's changed is back in 2010, I probably could have managed 250 properties on my own
Yeah, because it was very little.
without any
Well,
issues because there was little to
lot
do.
less than what there is now.
There was much less stuff to do. And
Yeah.
now I think the top pinnacle point without support is 80 to 100.
Yeah.
It's dropped dramatically because the workload and the complexity of the workload has shifted dramatically. Massive.
And all the landlords thank Dan Andrews for that.
Stop it.
But we won't go political. I try and say politics out of this podcast, but it always gets brought up. Now, pretty much, I think every podcast I've had, I've mentioned government, which I have to be careful of because as a solicitor, you're an officer of the court.
Sorry if I've mentioned too much today.
No. I think that's a good point to finish on because at the end of the day, people need to realize the value add that you bring to their property portfolio, and their investment portfolio is so important for their future growth, for their kids' financial futures, for their legacies. They create, essentially material wealth for generations, as, a will does, or a testamentary trust. So I think, it's important that property managers have their place in the sun now, because they should, and they're part of the team of an investor. You've got your conveyancer, lawyer, mortgage broker, real estate agent, and property manager who are all working together to get the job done. So I thank you for your time. Thank you for coming on the Stay Frosty podcast, and I hope everything goes well for you in the future.
Thank you.